This Week in Startups is brought to you by Capterra. Join the millions of people who use Capterra every month. To start your search today, visit capterra.com/twist. And Blue Apron. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/twist.
Hey everybody, we have a special episode of This Week in Startups today. We're testing a new format. It's called the Syndicate. What is a syndicate? The Syndicate is a group of 20 investors here in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and they got together for 2 hours. We ate some pizza, and we watched a bunch of startups present their companies and asked them really hard questions. These startups were selected based upon the feedback of the 20 angel investors, early stage venture capitalists who came. We asked them, hey, who are you meeting with? Who's doing interesting stuff? They gave us a bunch of names. We sorted through them. We did a couple of passes to see who had the most traction, who had the most viable products, just companies we thought that could be meaningful in the future. So we had those companies present for 3 minutes. We had the founders give 6 or 7 minutes of feedback. We did it in the wonderful offices of Wilson Sonsini, a great law firm here in San Francisco. And then we went into private session for a minute or two. Now, you're not going to be able to see the private session. That's where these startups talked about proprietary data that they were only willing to share with the investors, not with the 150,000 people who listen to this podcast. Don't feel bad about that. You know, you can fill in the blanks about how many users they have or how much money they're making. That's proprietary information. But we did convince these startups to come and talk about their companies in a very candid way and to answer questions in a very candid way. So this is a first. In addition, I wanted to let you know that this actually started 6 or 7 years ago. We used to do something called Open Angel Forum. It was just a forum where a bunch of angel investors would get together and hear pitches. I stopped doing it for some reason. It just got too busy. But in those early days, we invested in companies like Uber and Thumbtack and StyleSeat at the event, Signpost in New York. A number of these companies have become very meaningful, large companies, and a number of the angel investors who invested in those companies, First Round and Cyan Bannister invested in Uber along with me, and Cyan also invested in Thumbtack. A lot of these investors have become quite famous and have had incredible returns by investing in companies that they met at the Open Angel Forum. So we're going to try that again. And every 6 weeks here in San Francisco, we're going to get together with these 20 investors, and we're going to hear pitches from startups, ask them hard questions, and we're going to share it with you in the hopes that at some point in the future, maybe we could invest in these companies or at least get to know them. So we can't talk about the fundraising that occurs here in Silicon Valley. That has to be kept quiet. But these are 7 or 8 great companies that we met with over time. And they really are fascinating companies that have established themselves as notable. So what you're going to learn today is how they present their company in just 3 minutes and how they answer questions. So if you're a founder, you really need to watch this episode and study great founders answering hard questions. And then if you're an investor or you're thinking about becoming an investor, this is a great primer for how to look at a company and what questions smart investors ask. And what you'll notice is they ask very pointed, concise, specific questions. Why? They're not so concerned about what the strategy for the startup might be, but they really want to see how. It's not just the why, it's the how the founder answers the question. Are they thoughtful? Are they considered? So I think it's going to be a great episode. I think you're going to love listening to these startups and hearing their stories. If you want to be on the Syndicate with your company, just email me, jason@launch.co. And if you're an investor and you want to come and you've done, say, 3 or 4 investments a year, and you want to come to a taping, just email me, jason@launch.co. If you're thinking about becoming an angel investor and you're independently wealthy, you're an accredited investor, we might consider letting you come as an angel trainee, somebody who is thinking about becoming an angel investor, an angel in training, let's call it, AIT. So if you want to be one of the AITs at the event, again, email me, jason@launch.co. My email is always open, and you know I am @Jason on Twitter. And as you can tell, if you follow me on Twitter, I have a tendency to reply to people. I'm a chatty Cathy, as my mom would say. I like to talk. I like to mix it up. And this episode is no different. We may make this its own podcast and do it 10 times a year or so, and we'll have the Syndicate as its own podcast. We may just make it 6 or 7 episodes a year of This Week in Startups. It really depends on what you think of the episode. So email me, jason@launch.co, what you think. You can CC Jackie with a Q, UI, at launch.co, and give her your information and what you think. She's got 4 Emmys, so she probably knows better than both of us. But it's a great episode, and these are great companies, so enjoy. 3, 2, go.
Hi, my name is Henry. I'm the founder and CEO at CafeX. So we'll start with just a 90-second video, give you a demo of the product and some more info.
So you wake up in the morning and the only thing you want is a cup of coffee. The last thing in the world you want to do is go to Starbucks and stand in line and pay too much money for somebody to get your order wrong and have to make it 11 more times before they get it right. That's what this is meant to solve. This is CafeX, and it's an industrial robot whose job it is to make you coffee as perfectly and quickly as it possibly can. You can order from your phone or from a kiosk, and the goal is to put it everywhere where there's lots of people who need coffee right now. You have a bunch of different coffee options. You can pick if you want some syrup, and then you give it your phone number. And what this will do is it'll tell you when your order is about to be made and when it's ready. So you can just walk right through, pick it up, and leave. It can make coffee in about 20 seconds. It's really fast, and it's running 2 machines at the same time. It's designed to be super efficient, so lots of people can get in and out really quickly. And I get a text saying my coffee's ready. So my PIN is 6349, and there's my coffee. So the idea is that most people will order from their phone. They really want repeat customers who can just sort of run in and out. They're gonna put these things in train stations, so you can just grab one quickly as you go. So, and you can set this to be ready at a time that you want. I have to tell you, there's only one downside, really, is that the latte art kind of leaves a lot to be desired. But otherwise, it's pretty delicious.
So what you just saw there, that's our first location in the US, in Metreon. So please go check it out if you're around. But we opened that at the end of January, and last month we were actually, our EBITDA was positive, so in less than 90 days. The model is to serve specialty coffee from third wave roasters. So we partner with brands like Verve and Pete's and AKA, and you can select from the different roasters when you order coffee. The reviews have been great so far. I think generally people don't expect automated coffee to taste good at all, but people have been very surprised. And with the launch, we generated a lot of media attention as well. So just a quick overview of metrics from a very high level. Of course, I can go into more detail later. In terms of real estate, labor, and food costs for typical QSR, quick service restaurants, it's about 20%, and 25 to 30% on food cost. For us, our real estate cost is either 0 or a very small percentage, just because the machine is about 50 square feet. Our labor costs can be as low as 1%, or actually even less, with about 2 hours of labor a day. And food cost is there. And these are our current investors. And then we have a new machine that's coming out soon. That's it.
Okay, well done. So let's run a microphone. We have 20 great investors in the room. They're going to ask questions here on the Syndicate. And Jackie, you can run. I think Mar has a question.
Yep.
You can introduce yourself as well.
Hi, Mar. I'm a partner at Pair VC. We do pre-seed and seed investments. I have a question about the economics of the machine, how expensive it is, how much traffic do you need in a location to get your money back, how long it takes, et cetera.
Yeah,
Great question.
I'd love to get into the really fine details, maybe in the closed section. From a high level, the machine currently costs about the same as what it costs to set up a cafe, so a little bit pricey. But this is a manufactured product, so as we scale up, the cost comes down significantly. And then in terms of payback, currently it's about a year. Mm-hmm. Traffic, like how many sales per day? Yeah, between 200 to 300.
Great. Another question from an investor.
Henry, I'm Paul Willard from Subtraction Capital. I'm a big coffee fan, so I'm glad to see good coffee getting out there more. Do you intend to operate and build up all of these locations on your own, or do you intend to go robotics as a service and sort of license this out more franchise style?
Yeah, our model is to own and operate. So we lease space, or sometimes we're offered space for free, and we sell coffee to customers.
Hi, Henry. Asher Leeds. I'm angel investor. So my question is sort of on the operational end. Different sizes. How do people know it's theirs? And when you said labor cost, I mean, how are you refilling the beans? You said only 2 hours. I can imagine these machines need to refill beans.
Great questions.
Yeah. So on different sizes, you mean like different cup sizes? Yeah. So currently we're serving 8 ounce, which is really perfect for what our roasters prefer in terms of a good balance of milk and coffee. Sorry, what were the other 2 questions?
How do you know it's yours?
So you get a code. If you order on site, you enter your phone number, and we'll text you a code. We're actually working on something where you don't need to enter your phone number to get your code. It's just a display. And then if you order from the app, the code shows up in your app, and then you just pick it up.
And labor?
Labor, it's about 2 hours a day. So in the morning, we refill it with fresh supplies, and at night, we clean it.
Great. How many cups can those? It has a very big canister for beans. I'm on the board of the company, by the way, and Henry went through the incubator, so I know the product pretty intimately. But the capacity of the machines and the bean storage, it can do 500, 1,000 cups a day before it has to be refilled? Ballpark?
It's about 400.
400.
Yes, but we can obviously increase the size of containers. I think right now we're just trying to find a good balance between keeping the ingredients super fresh and reducing labor.
And also, every station has a camera, so it can be monitored from a central location. And if the beans do get to a low point, or the syrups, or the cups, you'll know, and you could send somebody out. So if there was a conference going on, or a flash mob came to order cups, you would be able to know that at the home office and deploy somebody. So it's really just-in-time servicing of it. Let's take one more question.
Well, this Terry Mead, Sandhill Angels, this ties in really well with that in terms of your expansion plan and identifying good locations and the timing of the rollout on that over like the next 5 years. What are you anticipating, and how do you identify the good characteristics of a location?
Sure. So for the rest of this year, we have 2 locations planned in San Francisco, one in July and one in August. Then in terms of expansion, we're going to continue expanding to office buildings, airports, train stations, schools. All kinds of universities have had interest. We're focusing on Bay Area initially, and we're also working on a project in China that I can talk more on in the closed section. Yeah.
Okay, let's take one question from our remote investors watching the private live stream. Ashley?
This is from Barry in London, England. Henry, what proportion of purchases at the Metreon are repeat purchases from a past customer?
Fantastic question.
That's a really good question. So Metreon is like a food court. So it's next to a movie theater and a conference center. So not too many people go there on a repeat basis, which is why we don't really track that at Metreon. It's really not that important. Yeah, I think in our upcoming locations and office buildings, that's where the repeat customers will be important.
In a way, the Metreon, if we look back on it, would have been a mistake to be the first location. It's great because it's a showpiece in the city, but it's not open for breakfast. So it opens at 10, so we lose half the customers. And it doesn't have an office space. The next 2 locations are going to be in office buildings that we've secured.
Yep.
And those next 2 locations, one of them is rent-free.
Yes.
The building wants the amenity so much, they've made it rent-free. And the other one will be about $2,000 a month rent, or cheaper?
Less than 3,000.
Less than 3,000. So the buildings are starting to look at this as an amenity and a way to compete for tenants, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. So now we're going to move to closed session. Hey everybody, I want to tell you about an amazing website to help you find the software you need to run your business efficiently. That site is Capterra, CAPTERRA.com/twist. Go there right now and you will find the software you need to solve your business problems. Yes, if you need websites built, customer service, project management, maybe you want to track your applications or figure out email marketing, all these complex software solutions that you need can be found at the website Capterra. It's like Yelp, but for software. So you go there and there's thousands of reviews sitting around, and you can read the reviews of actual users before you make a costly mistake and pick the wrong software solution. I've done this over and over again. I think that I found the best software solution. I train everybody, we install it, we invest hundreds of hours, and then find out that there's a better solution. Then we have to rip it out, move the data over. You don't want to do that. You want to go to capterra.com/twist, capterra.com/twist. It's absolutely free for consumers. There is no obligation for you. You don't need to register. You can just go there right now, capterra.com/twist, and you will be able to figure out what the best software solution is and read those reviews. They're high quality reviews. It's a free resource that's going to help you make the right software decision. You don't want to make a mistake. This will cost you nothing. It's going to find you a better solution, and it's going to save you time. What's not to like? We use it all the time here at This Week in Startups and Launch and all my companies to find the best software to solve business problems. Capterra.com/twist. Find the software that'll make you do what you do better. Okay, let's get back to this amazing program. So, as part of the syndicate process, we've asked other angel investors in our group, in this case Asher, connected us with Connected Signals, which is the first time I'll be seeing this company, and I'll be making a decision how involved I want to get in it right now. Matt, you have 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Thank you. My name is Matt Ginsberg. I run a company called Connected Signals. The problem we're trying to solve is that it's 2017 and cars don't know what traffic lights are doing. As far as who cares about this, drivers certainly care. When you're stopped at a red light, we can tell you if you have enough time to tune the radio, settle the food fight your kids are having in the backseat, whatever. Car makers care about this. We're actually working with the EPA now to ensure that when they deploy this stuff, they actually can credit it on the MPG stickers that are on all the cars you buy. Transportation networking organizations care about this. When Uber tells you that your driver is going to arrive in 4 minutes, that 4 minutes has to be right. But the last 4 minutes of a trip are totally dominated by whether the lights are red or green. And lastly, autonomous car makers care about this. When Uber rolled out their autonomous vehicles in San Francisco a couple of months ago, they immediately ran two red lights. They were both caught on film. It was incredibly embarrassing. This is a very hard problem that all of these guys have to solve. As far as where the data comes from, it turns out there are really just two ways you can get this data. You can get it from the traffic lights directly, or you can get it from cameras. And in both cases, Connected Signals is pretty squarely at the middle of all of these operations. So part of what we do is we get data from our municipal partners. We currently get live data for about 12,000 traffic lights on 3 continents, and then we pass that to everybody who's interested. So we can tell a driver, the light you see if it's 100 yards in front of you and it's green, you're going to make it. You don't have to speed up. We can help the OEMs with better navigation. We can help Uber. We can help the autonomous car makers by giving them an alternative source of information about the state of any particular light they're about to hit. And lastly, we have proprietary algorithms that take video data and produce traffic light information from that. And as far as we can tell, the algorithms we have are substantially better than what the car makers are currently using. Their video we work with is higher resolution, so we can see the lights from further away. We analyze it more quickly, and the error rates are lower. A little bit about barriers to entry here, because this obviously matters. The way cities push data to us, we give them a device. We have this little Raspberry Pi machine, costs us $60. We hand it out. It's patent pending, and it appears to be becoming sort of the standard for how people do this. And lastly, all of the algorithms we use to analyze this data are patent pending as well. In terms of revenue, you can see the numbers. I mean, the bottom line here is there are about 18 million cars sold every year in the United States. We'll see between $10 and $60 on those. Uber gives 5.5 million rides a day, and everybody has a cell phone. So I am done.
Great.
That thing should go off.
All right.
But my Stanford faculty background is going to show here. So I've got 2 silent videos that I want to play during the Q&A part. One of them is I can show you what the traffic lights in San Jose are doing right now. I'll put up a little map. And the other is a silent AV demo showing what information we would give to an autonomous car. The San Jose demo is better than it sounds, and the AV demo is worse than it sounds. Who wants to see the traffic lights in San Jose? You got to raise your hands.
Yeah, of course, let's do it.
And who wants to see the AV stuff?
All right.
Okay, traffic lights it is. One last thing, this is about to go away. Dennis at Connected Signals, our executive chairman, he's here with me. He's had a couple of successful exits. He's way better at the money stuff than I am.
Okay. So you went 1 minute over, so I'll take 1 minute from your Q&A. We'll have 5 minutes for Q&A, and let's run a microphone. Ed will go first, and then Jed. 5 minutes on the clock.
I'm Ed Roman. I manage an angel syndicate. Really love what you're up to. It's a really interesting business. Couple questions. One is, do you have a target, like first beachhead market that you might pursue out of all those customers you outlined? And then second is there a challenge in terms of getting these deals done with local municipalities? Is that sales cycle lengthy?
So in terms of initial beachhead, we are in negotiations with 2 automakers right now. They're both planning on rolling this functionality out in their 2019 model year cars. So that's going to be first. In terms of making the deals with the cities, the sales cycles can be anywhere from a few days to, I started talking to LA 2 years ago and they haven't agreed yet. So lots of variation. The fact that we're getting 12,000 lights is a huge step up here. The fact that we're helping with autonomy is a huge step up. We're going to start a bike thing. Cities love multimodal, so we listen to their problems, and the better we listen and the more we do, the faster they move.
Awesome. Another question?
Yeah, Jed Katz from Javelin Venture Partners. Is there or what is the latency between getting the data from the traffic light up to the cloud, down to the car? Because a second or two makes a difference at that point.
That's a great question. The answer is from the time the light changes in the sky till the time I can put it on your phone is a little under a second. If you think about it, traffic lights have been designed to deal with single second latencies. That's why they have yellows. So every application we've ever tried to field, a 1 second latency is not a problem.
Jim Lauterbach from Social Starts. How does the revenue work? Is it a monthly subscription? Can you repurpose or can you reprogram existing cars to go in via ODB or something like that?
So we can work via smartphones. For automakers who can do much more with the data than we can, including getting CAFE credits from the government, they're all asking us for fleet-wide pricing. So we tell them this much money per car. As long as you keep doing business with us, we'll keep supporting all your vehicles.
Another question.
Hey, Kevin from Funders Club. You talked about the unit economics on the revenue side for the costs of the traffic lights and the cameras. Can you talk through how much you're paying for each? I'm assuming the cameras are also privately owned.
We have never paid a city anything. We don't plan on paying a city anything. Occasionally, some intermediate-sized cities decide the universe revolves around them, and they ask us for money, and we tell them no. The cameras, we don't get data from the cameras. Those are the cameras that are feeding autonomous vehicles, and autonomous vehicles, as I imagine everybody knows, are just piled with cameras.
Great.
Real quick, does it just notify the driver that the light is about to turn red, and then you get some sort of nudge or something?
What we actually do on the interface side is the best thing to do is to put up a speedometer or use the speedometer the automaker already has, and we put a green arc. If you go that speed, you'll hit the next light green, or a red arc. And behind that arc is another little arc. It's like Tetris. If you go that speed, you'll hit the next light green. So you can actually get into the green wave and just, it's like green, green. It's exactly what you want if you're driving on a timed corridor.
Is there any, it's Jason Calacanis, angel investor and host. Is there any concern that you've gotten from municipalities that this will induce bad behavior, and how do you address that? In other words, if I see that the light's changing in 3, 2, do I gun it and go above the speed limit to try and make it?
I am so glad you asked that. So there are multiple answers. We are right now in the middle of a study with Argonne National Laboratory to figure out exactly what the driver's response to each of these various information is. And what we're going to do is we're obviously going to give drivers information that makes them better behaved and withhold information that makes them worse behaved. And the other thing we do is whenever we have a countdown, the light's going to be red in 37 seconds, that countdown stops at 5. We do not want people seeing the countdown hit 0 and off they go drag racing. It stops at 5. It makes you look at the light, because the only way you can really know if the light's green is you've got to look at it.
Great. Let's take a final question. Did somebody have a final question? Okay, Clara. And Clara specializes in cities.
Hi, yeah, I'm Clara. I'm the co-founder of the Urban Innovation Fund. Really enjoyed your presentation. I'm just curious, why wouldn't you pay cities for data if ultimately you're able to deliver such a great product? Like, why not?
The short answer is we don't have to. Everybody is anxious. All the cities have open data initiatives. They all want to get the data out there. We pay the cities in odd ways. So one of the things we do for all of our city partners is once they give the data to us, we will rebroadcast it to anyone they want to. We won't charge them. We won't insert latency. So the cities don't have to make new holes in their firewalls. They don't have to worry about network bandwidth. They've solved all their problems forever. So that's how we pay them.
Awesome. Let's hear it for Matt. And now in closed session. Hey everybody, I want to tell you about a great product which you've probably heard about, but maybe you haven't tried yet, and I have tried it and I love it. It has become a big hit in my household with my 7-year-old daughter. It's called blueapron.com. My wife loves it too. Go to blueapron.com/twist and you'll get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. It is an incredible experience. You get a box. It's obviously refrigerated, and all the ingredients and a beautiful menu card and a recipe card of how to make the product. So I've always wanted to make pizza at home. I've never done it. I mean, I made English muffin pizzas. You know, this is what we call Irish pizza when you grow up in Brooklyn. But they sent a beautiful pizza dough and beautiful sauce and cheese and everything, all perfectly portion sized and an easy to follow recipe. Then the other thing I've always wanted to learn how to cook is General Tso's chicken. That was one of my favorites when I was in New York and I was living on the West Side in Hell's Kitchen. I'd walk home from the Garden after watching the Knicks win a playoff game. I get General Tso's chicken. I never knew how to make it. They give you all the ingredients, a little cornstarch, so all these little syrups, and you, like a little professional chef, everything just goes smoothly. It is an incredible experience. It's also affordable. You get a ton of variety. It's super flexible. You get the deliveries when you want. And it really, I was just amazed by the quality of the bok choy, of the chicken. Everything was the highest quality. And it saves you not only from going to the supermarket, not only from getting a recipe, but also the portion sizes and how to put this all together. It makes cooking delightful again, and they are in partnership with 150 local U.S. farms, fisheries, ranchers, and they, so I'm a big seafood fan, and we love going to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And when I went there last time, they had this beautiful card that told you which fishes you should order, which are sustainable, but it's very hard to actually get that certified. People lie when they sell you fish. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know if it's actually sustainable or not. And even some of the stuff that's farm raised is actually not good for the environment. Well, you know what? Blue Apron takes all that away. They do all of that important work for your family. And it's very important to our family that we order sustainable stuff and we don't take stuff from the ocean that's not sustainable. It's a big movement amongst considered people. So the fact that they use the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch list to me and their standards is very impressive. Prep is, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's super, we did it faster in some cases, but we're fast cooks. It tastes great. It's easy. It's a better way to cook. It is a better way to cook. And also delicious. I made this beautiful Sicilian pizza and my daughter ate it all. It was one of those great experiences where she was looking in the oven, counting the minutes. So blueapron.com/twist, blueapron.com/twist, TWIST, and you'll get your first 3 meals free with free shipping. It is amazing. All right, let's get back to this amazing program. All right, our next company up is Blockable. Blockable came to the launch incubator last year, and I'm a huge fan of the founder, Aaron. Please welcome Blockable.
Hello.
3 minutes on the clock, 3, 2, go.
3 minutes, here we go. Gonna go fast. Okay, so Blockable is not construction, it's Blockable. I was at Amazon working on physical retail. I worked on Amazon Go, I worked on Amazon Books. I could do a ton of innovation on the Amazon side. I could do almost no innovation on the physical construction side. At the same time in Seattle, there was a giant housing crisis, homelessness, affordable housing. A big light went off and I realized that the market was completely inefficient and constrained, and the main issue was inventory. So we thought, what if we built a product? What if you could order housing like you you can order cars? What if customers could order hundreds at a time? What would the housing product of the future look like? So this is a Blockable. It's sitting just down the road from our manufacturing plant in Vancouver, Washington, by the Columbia River there. It's a beautiful atomic unit. This is the housing unit. This is what it looks like. Inside is gorgeous. It's really well appointed. It's really well thought through. It feels like a large space. Each Blockable is a sort of living unit on its own. We had it at the Urban Land Institute meeting last week, and so people walked in and they were in a really beautiful sort of studio apartment sitting in the middle of the city. It was quiet. It's really well built. It's gorgeous. Each unit also has its own operating system, so we built this from the ground up to be completely instrumented. We're measuring everything that's going on and giving people full control. Managers, community managers, property managers also have a full interface in Slack, so they can see all the events that are going on, and they can build new software to communicate with people inside the units. So it's really a learning machine. And we think of it like every block is a node and every community is a network. So really thinking of these as smart devices that we can roll out and to form entirely new communities. So people have tried this before. It's really hard, which is good to know going in. But like other breakthroughs, it's all about team, market, and timing. This is our team. It's an incredible team. I don't think there's ever been a team that has this particular structure of architecture, industrial design, mechanical engineering, and manufacturing. We're going after this market, which is the missing middle. So this is the mid-story development that's happening in every major city in the United States right now, and it's basically where most of the housing is missing. And so think of mid-rises, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories full of apartments. We're going after those all day long. And we plan to really add value for developers. So all the way from automating the design process to really rapid preparation of foundation into autonomous manufacturing to increase the number that we can build, all the way to support so that we have an ongoing relationship with the developer. This is a virtuous cycle. The more projects they do with us, the more value they get from having a relationship with our company. For developers, we can save them 30% cost, 70% on the design phase, because most buildings design themselves once you understand all the limitations of land use and what the developer is trying to achieve, and then 50% build time. Projects like this, so this is a layout for a multifamily project that we were working on in Utah. This is something that we're working on with Compass Housing in Seattle, which is a scale-out modular program to deliver hundreds and thousands of housing units into the city to solve some of the major problems that are happening there. This was a difficult-to-build location on the Columbia River that we were working on with a developer in Portland. And this is a sort of time lapse of what's going on a couple months ago in our factory. It already looks very different from this. So we have 3 units in production right now. They're going to start to go on site in September, and we can't build fast enough.
Okay, well done. Let's take questions from the syndicate members. Who's got a question?
So are the developers your customer, the city is your customer, or are you doing B2C?
Developers are the customers, market rate and nonprofit developers, both developers. The only difference is that nonprofits generally access public financing, which has its own requirements for building code.
Jed.
Am I remembering this right? Didn't you used to use shipping containers, and why did you change?
Never used shipping containers. They were always a really good inspiration. They're terrible building materials, but to ship on trucks is very efficient.
Okay.
What is the cost? This is Jason Calacanis for those people listening to the audio only. What is the cost of an average unit?
Average unit?
The one block.
Yeah, so between $45,000 and $80,000, depending on how packed it is with stuff.
And what is the cost per square foot of that then?
About $150 to $325 a square foot.
And you can put those modules together, typically 2 or 3 to make a unit?
Yeah, so this year we're working on 2-story projects, and next year we go to 5. So this year we're working on, sort of small individual plug-and-play buildings, and then motel-type frameworks, which are 2 stories with general living on the second floor, sometimes education, sometimes storefront on the first.
Great. Let's take another question from the syndicate members.
Hi. This is Christophe Frez. I'm an angel. How many have you sold? How many do you have in the pipeline? And what is the sales cycle?
So the sales cycle is longer depending on the size of the project. So large projects, we have for next year in the pipeline 70 units, 100 units. Those are longer sales cycle because they tend to be bigger properties. We have 6 customers. The first 3 units that are in contract will be delivered in September. And we have... Can I talk about pipeline? The rest we'll talk about after. Yeah.
Hey, Aaron Asher, great presentation. My question is, in terms of the shipping, you say you're doing the shipping the whole thing, but if your location's the West Coast, how do you plan on shipping East Coast? Are you expanding then? You have to have locations, kind of different parts of the country. How are you planning on doing that?
Yeah, so we'll have one location for sure. West Coast is, 1,000 to 1,500 miles. There's not much difference on the delivery because the economics of intermodal are very efficient. So we'll need likely 2 or 3 locations to serve the country. And then we'll also have partnerships with people who do fit and finish, so that do the paint outs and fixtures and all the customization that you would want to do for individual markets that require customization. But we'll need 2 or 3 facilities in the country
What does it cost to deliver 1,000 miles from your
$1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take another question.
I'm Ed Roman. I run an Angel Syndicate. Love the presentation. Very cool vision. Do you have any early data yet from consumers around their reaction to this compared to traditional housing?
It's twofold. So we go after people who really value time compression. So the thing that we found is that developers generally have no particular interest in construction. They want the finished buildings. And so developers who are building repeatable models tend to like us even more. So if you're a developer who always builds on a half-acre lot and always does 2-story projects, we can enable you to do 6 projects a year instead of 3. So it's the developers who are generally doing repeatable models who really love what we're doing. And that also goes for nonprofit agencies because they can increase the number of housing units they can provide on a yearly basis, which is a big goal for them.
Hi, Brian Holmes, First Ascent Associates. You've talked a little bit about the cost savings, but how does it affect the property value versus traditional construction?
Generally, modular is no different from site-built. So from a regulatory perspective as well as an overall value perspective, it's not different from site-built construction. So manufactured housing is very different. Modular projects, which is what we're doing, modular housing is generally the same as site-built.
Another question.
David Austin with Machine VC. Quick question, Aaron. So really cool. Obviously like it. It's awesome. Number of units you're building on a monthly basis. How many can you build now? How many do you have to build on a monthly basis next year to be able to meet demand?
Yeah, meeting demand is not going to be possible for a while just because we've been blown away by demand. We'll go from, say, 3 a month to about 15 a month by Q1 of 2018.
It's a bit of a Tesla-like situation. The product is so innovative and there's so much pent-up demand that you have to get manufacturing tight before you can scale.
Yes.
That's really what the next year or 2 are going to be about, is tightening up that manufacturing process, I take it?
And we've really simplified around that one model. So that one model, which from that one model we can build 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, all types of different layouts, but the one model is the key, simplifying that, nailing engineering and scaling.
Okay, we have one question from our remote members of the Syndicate. Ashley?
Oh, we just got another one from Matt.
Okay, let's take both. Read both of them to us.
First is, what is the average size of the model unit? And a second is, do these units expedite the entitlement process? How much quicker can they come to market than general construction?
Great questions.
So a unit is 180 square feet, but with that unit, you can build 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 900 square feet, 1,000 square feet. So with the unit, you can construct what the market buys, which is typically studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedroom apartments, and developers build apartments because that's what customers rent. And on the entitlement side, we go through the state regulatory process in our plant, which means that we go through each state that we sell in. We go through the building code, energy code, all the building level code gets reviewed on site, which means those permits are already, those reviews are already approved when it gets to the site, which removes some of the complexity of the final inspection.
Okay, and did you have the names of those people so we can give them credit for their questions, or do they want to be anonymous?
Mark and Matt.
Mark and Matt.
Mark and
Matt. Tell Mark and Matt I said hi. All right, now we're going to go into closed session. You ready?
I'm
All right, 3 minutes on the clock. No pressure.
All right. Hello,
3, 2,
everyone.
go.
My name is Bronwyn Harris. I am the mother of a 4-year-old child right here with asthma. I'm also a physician and an engineer, and now the CEO of a company, 2AO Health. And we're transforming the way that we care for asthma. Asthma is very common, and over 50% of patients are not well controlled. Truly, I feel an embarrassment of medicine. We have the medications, yet we're not managing these patients. And because of that, it's extremely expensive. 2/3 of the cost are from emergency room visits or hospitalizations that can be eliminated by maintaining control. Why is asthma so poorly controlled? The root of this is the fact that there is no gold standard assessment of control. Imagine if you tried to control diabetes without a glucometer. That's what we're doing for asthma. We're primarily relying on subjective recall of symptoms. When you see a physician, they ask, how have your symptoms been over the last weeks or months? And then adjusting medications accordingly. Patients often don't realize when they're not well controlled. And not surprising, they're not adherent with medications that they don't realize they need. So we're addressing that. Our solution uses an off-the-shelf sensor that gets attached to the mattress, and we provide a daily objective assessment of asthma control. Our initial studies were done through Stanford, an observational study, and from the data, we were able to build a proprietary analytics that give this daily assessment of control. Now, data alone doesn't change outcomes. So we now have incorporated with that a mobile application. Data can be viewed by the family, and there's interactions, gaining additional context and then giving guideline-based instruction. There's also an asthma educator dashboard that can track these patients and reach out, address questions and concerns. Here's data from one of the patients in our observational study. This 12-year-old was well controlled initially. We had 2 alerts in this stage. Now this was observational, so the family didn't get those alerts, but this very observant mom noticed that her daughter was having symptoms 1 day after and 2 days after the other alert. Now, speaking as a mom, not every day are you on top of your child and realizing when something's going on. So having these alerts, knowing then when to make the changes that you had agreed upon with your physician is important. But even this seemingly perfect mom didn't realize difference in severity. So her daughter then had 2 other episodes, significantly more severe, but she just did the same action she had done before. She didn't realize, and her daughter ended up in the emergency room. So the power of this objective measure obtained passively to allow you to make modifications is huge. We can avoid these exacerbations. They don't need to happen. Pediatric asthma is a great place to start, but it's just the beginning. Absolutely, we can do adults. We can go into other chronic diseases with physiologic changes. I have a great team, 2 co-founders that I met through the Stanford Biodesign Fellowship, and we just had our 4th full-time hire come on last week. And that's it. What questions do you guys have?
Well done. A big round of applause for true 2EO health. 2EO.
2EO.
What does it mean, 2EO? Does it have a meaning?
It does. In Latin, 2EO means to observe or to protect, which is exactly what we're doing.
Well, thank you for explaining that. Questions from our audience. Go ahead, Jim.
So I suffer from asthma, and my son did as well. So a little bit familiar with it. Very cool. Jim Lauterbach, by the way, from Social Starts. Question, it looked like your sensor is just in the mattress, so it's only looking at what happens at nighttime, but a lot of times these episodes are triggered during sports and other things during the day. How do you work with that during the day, not just at night?
Yeah, so very interesting. So, looking at nighttime versus daytime. So, even when there are exacerbations that happen during the day, there are signs beforehand. So we think of asthma and we just think of exacerbations, but it isn't that simple. The problem is we don't have this assessment of control. When a patient is well controlled, they are extremely unlikely. It's not, 0, but to have an exacerbation. Meanwhile, when they're in this sort of middle period where they're not well controlled, that's when you have that trigger, whether it's, exercise, a certain allergen or a virus, that's when you go into the exacerbation. So we have this period of time of weeks beforehand that we see those changes. And even in the severe exacerbations, we see days beforehand. An exception if you just have exercise induced where there does not seem to be anything else, then that really is in exercise. You need your albuterol or modifications, but we can see signs beforehand.
Great. Let's take another question. Rob?
Hey, Bronwyn. My name is Rob Ness. I run an AngelList Syndicate, and my question is a pretty direct one. How do you or how will you make money?
Perfect. All right. So ultimately, our targets are payers and integrated health networks. That this is, value-based medicine. That if you take a patient who is not well controlled and are able to move them to be well controlled, you have over $4,000 cost savings in that year alone. So similar to what other companies are doing in the prediabetes and diabetes space, where you are improving care, providing value. One of the great things with asthma is you actually see cost savings that year. You're not having to wait 5 to 10 years in advance. We are also going to take advantage of consumers who are willing and able to pay for this to get it out there initially as we're starting discussions and getting contracts with the bigger payers.
Great. Another question?
That's Paul Willard. Along similar lines, actually. So traction so far, I see you've built a model and tuned a model, but Do you have paying customers yet? Are you talking with people about pilots?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in conversations with multiple different organizations about pilots, both from the academics, integrated health networks, and also talking to pharma companies.
So pre-revenue.
Correct.
But in discussion for pilots that would be paid.
Correct.
Okay.
And those will be this fall.
Great presentation. My name's Asher, angel investor. I suffered from asthma when I was younger. So a question I have, I'm not quite understanding, and maybe you explain this, but I'm kind of dense. So you put this monitor on the bed. So how are you actually getting them? If you come up with kind of the science, that would be great.
Absolutely. 3 minutes is short. You're not dense. I had to cut it out. So the actual device I have here off the shelf, it's an accelerometer base. So you're measuring small changes in movement. So of course you can see movement. You can get, when you go to sleep quality. But then beyond that, so there's a very old scientific principle, ballistocardiography. Every time your heart's beating, there's a characteristic waveform. So you can get physiologic parameters without having to be in contact. Heart rate variability. So, very granular data, respiratory rate. And so combining all of those, you're getting that throughout the night.
Great. Let's take one more question from the room, and then we'll take one from the remote audience. Ed.
Hi, I'm Ed Roman. I'm an angel investor. What have you done to kind of prove out product efficacy since you're kind of pre-pilot right now? Have you done case studies in a lab environment, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So before we actually decided to move forward as a company, our go-no-go was, let's do this observational study, make sure that these insights actually make a difference. So we're following longitudinally. We saw patients who got medication started, stopped, who had exacerbations, and we have all of the alerts running, even though the families weren't getting them. So that's where our data came from. A lot of it will be presented actually at the big pulmonary conference this month.
Let's take a question from the remote audience watching the private live stream of the Syndicate.
From Peter with Seraph Group. How do you extrapolate med adherence from sensors? Will you build support assets for patients, doctors to understand data, or deliver the raw data?
Yeah, very good. Good question. So coming from the physician side, I'll answer that. Physicians don't want the raw data. They want it. This is important information to really understand and get that missing, link on how their child's been doing. We have a one-page summary for the physician. The patient can download. It can be faxed to them. Good old school medicine that we're in. It can be, printed out. It can be sent through that. So we don't have to do integration with the EHR. We can give a summary that physicians want. And now I'm forgetting the other question.
That's good enough. Let's get a final question from the live audience. Mark?
I have two questions. One builds on Ed. Do you have enough data to convince customers to, buy the device? That's one question. And the second is, why did you decide to put it on the bed instead of a wearable if it's measuring,
Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a wearable is not completely passive. You have to charge it. You have to choose to put it on. You miss a lot of data. And in something like this with asthma, it comes and goes. And when you're stopping taking your medication, you're stopping doing all of those other things, including wearing a wearable that gives you that information, is exactly when you need to be getting that information. So we felt it was essential that it was something passive that was always monitoring. All you have to do is sleep in your bed.
Okay, well done. Let's give a big round of applause to Chuyo. Okay, now we'll go into private session. Please welcome Darren of Interviewed.
Thank you for having me.
3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
So I am Darren. I'm the CEO of Interviewed, and the problem we try to solve is a problem that every company faces. If you were to go out and ask CEOs around the room what the top 3 problems are for their organization, they're going to tell you that attracting, selecting, and retaining the right people is a problem that happens initially, and it keeps with you as you scale the company up into the Fortune 500. What we realized throughout our career as hiring managers is that the only effective way to select the right people that you're seeing in an interview process is to see those candidates in action. We learned that as engineers by letting developers work on GitHub projects, but then we said, but we're hiring for sales reps, customer service, technical support, analysts. How can we see those candidates in action so that we can hire the right people for the job? And so that's what we built. This is Interviewed. What you're seeing here is a screenshot of what a customer service candidate would interact with. On the left is a conversation starter where they're going to, on their phone or using their microphone on their computer, actually have a live conversation with an AI-powered conversation agent so that they can work to find a customer, figure out what's wrong with their account, diagnose it using information in the FAQ, send follow-up emails, essentially be a customer service agent in 20 minutes online in a simulation. We've taken that same principle of seeing candidates in action and combined video, audio, chat, spreadsheets, whatever it takes to be able to see a candidate in action and apply that across hundreds of different types of jobs. So for example, if someone is applying for a paralegal position and their primary responsibility is going to be contract review, we're going to put contracts in front of them and let them review them and grade that in an automated way. This gives the employers the two things that they want out of their hiring process, and that is efficacy and efficiency. Efficacy means, am I actually hiring the candidate on the basis of understanding that they're going to be great in my organization, or am I hiring them because I got along with them in the interview and we had something in common? And the efficiency side is, am I able to process the thousands of candidates that I am seeing as a high-scale organization efficiently so that I am hiring the right people and getting them through the process quickly? We have two goals as a company. The first is to have the very best assessments that we can for every type of role that we want to cover, and that's about 80% of jobs. And then the second is to do this at massive scale. This is not niche. This is for all white-collar knowledge worker hiring. Pretty much any job that you have encountered in San Francisco is the jobs that we want to help companies hire better for. And it's working. We are administering 150,000 assessments per month and growing rapidly. That tracks linearly with our revenue. We just crossed 1.4 million in ARR since exiting from our seed round 18 months ago. So why is this important? If you look at the cost of wrong hires, it is staggering in the sense of the investment that you make in training and onboarding the wrong people. And in addition, the hiring process itself is very lengthy. It results in biased outcomes, as has been demonstrated over and over, and it's very expensive to run. And that's the reason why there's $800 billion a year being spent on in-house and third-party staffing agencies to try to address this problem. But what we see is a pattern of more and more of that spend moving over to HR tech, which is where companies are realizing if we can automate this process and make objective decisions, we are going to be able to hire the right people more effectively and cause our organizations to grow and expand the way that we want them to. Thank you.
Okay, well done. Questions for Darren of Interviewed? Wow, we got a bunch. So
let's start with
well, Jackie will pick. Okay.
So Debbie from Denhua Capital, and I have two questions actually. Like first of all, what's your pricing structure, and then so second is do you have any performance benchmark, so of the candidate that hire through interview versus the candidate hire through like human HR?
Yeah, it's a great question. So during the open session, I'm not going to name specific customers, but I'm happy to do that during the private session. We do have benchmarks that show that the customer service, for example, on the platform perform 40% better on average than a typical candidate, and I can go into what 40% better means. On the engineering side, it's much more dramatic, where we see 100% difference in performance, and that is measured by basically retention and earning of those candidates that end up getting hired. So we do have very strong efficacy data. And then in terms of pricing, historically, we've been selling exclusively into enterprise, and so our price point was typically about $2,000 per month minimum. And our churn is basically zero. We've had one company churn in the life of the company, and that was due to just a mismatch on the type of role that they needed to hire for. And so what we decided to do was to change the pricing to allow remove that barrier to entry of having to make a $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000 yearly commitment, and instead do a per candidate pricing model. And so we implemented that in mid-March, and we immediately cut the sales cycle from 150 days down to 21 days. And so
That's the per candidate pricing.
That is the per candidate pricing.
It really takes a lot of friction out of making the decision.
Exactly. We didn't want to, since we have such low churn, we felt that it wasn't necessary to try to lock in customers via long-term contracts. We can just let them get on board and begin using us immediately.
Sort of like Facebook, pay as you go. However many clicks you get. Okay, great. Let's do
Rishi Garg from the Mayfield Fund. My question is, how are you developing the content for sort of the best-in-class interviews that you're conducting, or this content? Is it done by the enterprises themselves, or you have an in-house staff that's sort of creating those?
That's a really good question. Assessment content creation is one of our largest expense line items. And basically the way that we do it is we, on our website, list out all of the different categories where we have the capacity to develop assessments. And then based on the demand from employers and prospective customers, we then task our assessment creation team to go and build them. And so that process typically involves at a minimum 3 subject matter experts and then about 40 candidates who go through the process and give us feedback both from the perspective of qualified hiring managers as well as the candidates themselves saying, well, the SME might have thought that I needed to know what X, Y, and Z process was, but I've been in this job for 10 years and I never needed to have it. So it gives us that dual real world versus more academic approach to selection.
Let's take another question.
Hi, my name is Clara. I'm the co-founder of the Urban Innovation Fund and former classmate of Darren's from grad school. I think one of the appeals of automation is an elimination of demographic bias. Is this something you think about, and have you been able to document any improvements on that so far?
We have. One of our employers, a very large employer, wanted to use Interviewed to be able to hire completely blindly. And so they asked us to develop the ability to make Interviewed completely anonymous to all of their team until the very last stage of the interview process. And so that's a capability that we built and we make available to all of our customers so that they can run a process that objectively selects the best candidate and they don't even know anything about the candidate in terms of geography or race or any other identifying variable until the very end of the process. And that has dramatically raised the representation of underserved groups in outcomes in hiring.
Great.
Yeah, I have Mark Hershenson from Pear. I have a question about the content. Sounds like that's almost like your crown jewels. You run the content and you can maybe trigger, later how somebody did in a job based on how they did in that interview. So I think I have many questions about the content. One is, do people want to use it for practicing and getting updates? Have you thought about that? The second is, do companies think it's like their crown jewels? I remember working at a company where their interviews were like, their questions were like their crown jewels and they want to run it by you. Anyways, anything you can say about that?
It's a really good question. We do see a lot of activity. At one point, we made it easy for anyone to just turn on Interviewed and begin using it. And what we found was that we were getting hundreds of candidates a day that were trying to create organizations in order to prepare for interviews. So that's one of the reasons why we don't currently enable customers to trial Interviewed on the website. What we're going to begin moving toward next quarter is the ability to do that with just a little bit of auth so that we can verify that it's the right employer so that we can preserve the integrity of the tests as we scale up into millions of candidates per month.
Okay.
Jim Lauterbach from Social Starts. I don't have a question. We invested in 2015. Congrats on your success.
Thank you.
All right, well done.
There's actually 4 investors in the audience. So
I love that. Excellent. Okay, a question from the remote investors watching the stream.
I have 3 questions, and I'll just
Yes,
throw
why don't
them
you just
all
give
at
them,
you.
stack them, the name, the question, the name, the question.
Great. From Mark, please discuss the competitive landscape. From Brian Rosenblatt, how would you go about testing the skills of a salesperson? Do you customize at the company level? And lastly, from Brendan, what has the repeat usage rate been?
Okay.
So the repeat usage rate is very high. As I mentioned, we have a churn rate of about 3%. So basically, once a customer comes on board, they stick with us essentially forever. Furthermore, a company will typically come to us with one role in mind that they want to hire for. And what we've seen is that over 6 months, our spend typically increases by about 60%. So it's very much a land and expand strategy with enterprise where they'll have one role in mind and then they broaden it out throughout the organization.
Sure.
In terms of sales, we very much do a lot of sales hiring. And what that would look like is, for example, for an outbound SBR, we would initially put the candidate into a LinkedIn simulator in which we're saying, hey, go and prospect these types of companies, send cold emails to try to schedule a demo. And then the very last stage would actually have them on the phone with a customer trying to sell something similar to the product that the company wants to hire for. For example, we have one that uses a point of sale system similar to Square, which I think answers on that, the last question nicely, which is how much do we customize it? The answer is we customize it by role and by industry, but not to a specific company, because one of our benchmarks is that we will not build an assessment unless that assessment has broad utility across many customers, because we don't want to be in the business of creating custom content for an org.
Okay, well done. Let's go into closed session. Big round of applause for Interviewed. So 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Attila Todt. I am the CEO and founder of PowerScout. PowerScout is an AI-enabled marketplace for the smart home improvement before I started PowerScout 2 years ago, I was selling IoT software at Tom Siebel's C3 IoT. And I thought a lot about how IoT is going to change very dull, very boring industries, like, for example, home improvement. Home improvement is a $330 billion industry, growing to $440 billion in the next 5 years. If you look at what's the fastest growing segment in this very dull, very fragmented, old school industry, is what is enabled by IoT, what we call smart home improvement. So everything that is related to home security, home automation, advanced roofing, solar energy efficient heating and cooling, falls into that category that is going 2.5x faster than the category. There's two problems with this market. Number one, consumers are completely confused, right? Consumers don't know what the smart home is. They think that a Nest thermostat makes their home smart. They don't know who to trust. There are multiple brands out there, and they don't know the value of these devices when they're connected in their home. On the service provider side, as I said, is a very fragmented market, right? You have thousands of small service providers. Mostly these guys are living in the yellow pages area when they're finding their customers. They're not data savvy. They cannot explain the value of this home improvement opportunities. So what is the output of this? The output of this, that customer acquisition costs in home improvement, traditional home improvement, are off the charts, ranging from $4,000 on the top to $6,000 for solar energy, down to about $1,000, $1,500 for home security. That's what companies are paying for acquiring a new customer. So meet PowerScout, an AI-enabled marketplace. What we are building here is what Credit Karma built for the personal finance market. That's what we're building for the smart home. We collect a lot of data. We're a data science company. We have probably 1,200 to 1,500 data points on each one of your homes so that we can explain the value, the combined value of multiple connected devices, whether that's home automation, whether it's rooftop solar, whether it's battery storage, or electric vehicle charging. What we do is we curate the customers online, and then we match them with the right service providers. Just like Credit Karma, we are providing very rich content, and we are providing tools that help the customers understand what is the value on their particular situation. We started with solar energy. We are at revenues in solar. We have about 30 paying customers, a little bit less than $1 million revenue run rate, and we are expanding into other projects. But over time, we are also adding products onto the platform. What makes us unique is the rich data that we have. So we have three types of data. We have LiDAR data, we have satellite data, and we have also demographic, psychographic data, so we can explain the value of many of those connected home devices to the customers. Our revenue model today is referral-based, so we are selling a referral to our customers, which are regional and local service providers, at about $50, and we resell that 3 times, just like for any home improvement project.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Questions from our audience, and if we have any questions from the remote audience, just raise your hand, Ashley, and we'll get to them as quick as possible. Questions from the audience?
So who do you see your initial target market being? How are you planning on reaching them? And does this really work outside of, our little bubble here?
It does. So today we have about 79,000 visitors to powerscout.com, to our site. 20% of that is organic traffic, and 80% is traffic that we create. So based on our understanding of your building, we are building a tailored digital marketing campaign where we are connecting your physical footprint to an email address or to an IP address. So we are sending you a personalized either Facebook or Google ad, and we are drawing you into the site. That's 80% of our traffic. We are active in 4 states, California, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts. California, our little bubble, being about 30% of our market.
Hey, Attila, Rob Ness. I have an AngelList Syndicate, and does this have to be a consumer platform where you need to have consumers engaged? Because some of the data, it sounds like, is not coming from the consumer. Can you just generate the lead and sell it directly to the vendors? Or is it crucial that this becomes a explosively popular consumer platform?
this is the question that kept me up at night for a long, long time funding this company. We have to be a consumer-focused company because marketing has changed more in the past 5 years than it has changed in the preceding 50. So the people who would use this data, they do not have the marketing sophistication. They don't know how to run a Facebook campaign. They don't know how to run a targeted digital marketing campaign on DoubleClick. So we have to do that, and we have to charge a referral fee for that.
Great. Another question.
So does it really help them figure out what to buy? Because these people are really, really confused about how to even get started, which things to purchase at which particular time. So how does it help them figure out other than simply by cost?
Yes. So basically you get lots of content, just like Credit Karma gives you lots of content. And just like Credit Karma gives you a good understanding of what your credit score is and what you can do about your credit score, just by you sharing your address, we tell you, based on what we know about your home, what type of improvement would make sense to you. Today, the site is quite energy focused. So we tell you if you live in 123 Menlo Park, right, with a certain roof orientation, with certain utility rates, and if you are thinking about putting a Tesla into that home, we tell you how many solar panels you would need, how much you would save, how much your carbon footprint would decrease. All that data we are providing to you, targeted to your home.
Great. Let's take a final question from the remote group.
From Barry in London, England again. From the satellite data which you collect, can you generate a tailored business case, ROI, for things like solar panels on a consumer's roof?
Absolutely. And actually better than satellite data. For about 60% of the US, we have LiDAR data, which is from low-flying aircraft, which gives us about half a square meter resolution. So we can generate an ROI just by knowing an address very quickly based on that data. Yes.
Okay, great. We'll now go into closed session at the Syndicate. All right, 3 minutes on the clock. 3, 2, go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Shaw. This is Ben Harilla, and we created Underground Cellar, a way for brands to not destroy their reputation and pricing structure forever when using discounts, because discounts kill brands. Instead, we help luxury suppliers quickly sell inventory while protecting their brand. We have over $5 million of sales, and we're dominating the wine space and beyond. On our website, you can buy bottles of wine, and we ship them right to your door. But a lot of companies do that. What makes us unique is that we've gamified online shopping. Let me show you. On our website every day, we feature a new winery, wine region, or varietal. Today, it's Cabernet, and for $37, you're guaranteed to get this amazing $37 bottle of wine. But 1 out of every 5 bottles is instead swapped out, upgraded, instead to the $60 bottle. 1 out of every 20 bottles is swapped out to this $100 bottle. And if you can see it here, 1 out of every 400 bottles is swapped out to the very rare $2,500 bottle of Screaming Eagle. The best part, you see exactly which upgrades you won as soon as you check out. So in this example, this customer bought 6 bottles. He got 4 upgrades. So for his $180, he got over $280 of wine. Premium buyers love and understand discounts. Like when you book that room at the Ritz-Carlton, you get upgraded to a suite. Or when you book a business class on an airline and you get upgraded to first class. When you buy a bottle of wine, you get upgraded to an autographed Magnum. When this happens, our customers are hooked. And that's why a customer spends $170 on their first purchase. In 90 days, they spend $450. Within 6 months, they spend $860, and that gives us a $2,100 lifetime value. And we can acquire customers like this at scale for just $60 a piece. That's how we racked up $5 million in sales, and we have a 2-month payback on that acquisition. And in fact, we're actually even getting better. In January, we spent $4,000 on Facebook ads. That cohort returned $49,000 of sales in just 45 days. By funneling cash into these proven marketing channels, we can dominate the $6 billion online US wine space. But we're not stopping there. Because what we've created, this technology, it applies to other luxury verticals, gourmet food, fashion, sporting event tickets, hotel rooms. We sold $5,000 of caviar in 3 hours. And if you find this compelling, you're not alone. We've raised over $3 million from investors like Shark Tank's Barbara Corcoran and Y Combinator. And if you're interested in helping a company that is helping luxury suppliers protect their brands, has over $5 million of sales, is dominating the wine space and beyond, we'd love to chat with you. Thank you.
Okay, well done. Questions from the audience? I know some people came to the incubator and saw one or two of these companies before. So much better. And that's very interesting, right? You're like, wow. If you come to, so everybody here is invited also to come to the, how many people have been to our incubator? Raise your hand, nice and high. Amazing, great. If you haven't been to the incubator, you're invited to join us. That's a 12-week program, which these guys just finished. Last week was the last week. And so questions from the audience. Go ahead,
Hi,
Ed.
I'm Ed Roman. I'm an angel investor. So, love your presentation. Thank you very much for that. How do you think about kind of your future in terms of being a direct e-commerce platform yourselves, where you're acquiring customers yourselves, versus being a kind of a technology platform that other websites might be able to get value out of? Have you considered that? Is that in the cards at all for you guys?
Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Appreciate that, Ed. I'd like to introduce you to my co-founder, Ben Harilla, graduate top of his class from Brown, ex-Microsoft, and he'll answer that question for you.
Thanks. Ed,
well played.
As someone who's really passionate about technology, one of the things that we've always looked into was how we can become a platform. And so while we could become, we've looked at a number of things in the past, including powering e-commerce checkout for wineries and their wine clubs. But we have these core competencies of the cloud seller and the upgrades as well. And so we really want to win that space first before we really branch out. There's a lot of directions we could go in the future. I think a platform play is one of those. But for now, we're just focused on, selling as much as we can and, excelling in what we're really good at.
Great. Another question.
Hey, it's Paul Willard. Congratulations on the progress in the last 11 weeks. I really appreciate seeing this. In the example that you gave, $4,000 of spend on Facebook netted $43,000 in sales. What did the gross margins look like?
Sure. So our gross margins are about 25%, and it does take about 60 days to pay back that customer acquisition cost, but the customer retention is really good, and the lifetime value is real based on what we've computed.
Great. Another question. Mar has one.
Hi, Mara Hershenson, Pair. I just have a question on your LTV and your repeat usage for customers. What are you seeing?
So what's really interesting is that because of the cloud seller and the collection aspect of the site, we find that a lot of people don't really cash out all the bottles that they have in storage with us at any one time. That enables us to keep going back to them and saying, hey, here's all the bottles that you have stored with us. And so they keep coming back again and again. We can share our cohort analysis offline. We don't have it on the deck. But what's really interesting is that we have customers, even from month 1 and month 2 over 3 years ago, that are still coming back. I think over 75% of customers from month 2 have still placed a purchase within the past 60 days.
Great. Any more questions? All right. Let's go into closed session. Okay. Big round of applause for Underground Cellar. Okay. So in closing, if you want to have your company featured on the Syndicate, you can just email us. And that will be to feedback@thesyndicate.fund, feedback@thesyndicate.fund. And if you're a member of the Syndicate and you have a company you'd like to recommend for next month's, to email me or call me. You have my number. And if you know somebody who wants to be part of the Syndicate and come and hang out with us live or on the remote, again, contact myself or Ashley, my chief of staff, ashley@launch.co. That concludes the first episode of the Syndicate. Thank you so much for coming.